very early on in my disc golf career, relating to my personal YouTube channel and just my personal life, I had chosen to take a vow of silence for an entire year. This was about right when I moved back to California from Arizona and had only been playing disc golf for not even a year yet, maybe just over a year, probably right about a year. So a lot of the people that I just started playing with, I didn't really know to the depths. I knew them, we were friends, but we hadn't become close because, well, some of them I did get close with because you can still get close with people without speaking because you can be present. But overall, I wasn't allowed to engage as I would if I had my voice. So, in that kind of interaction experience, you're going to see things that you wouldn't have seen before, you wouldn't have thought to look at before because the world around you changes. When you turn one part of your life or one sense off, the sense to speak, your voice, your vibration, that's an energy. So when you turn that off, that energy doesn't go away. It gets transmuted into other parts of you. So I could hear more, I could feel more, I could intuit more. The cloudiness that comes with having to speak in every moment of the day, in every interaction with everybody, all that slows down and pretty much disappears. So when that happens, it opens up a whole bunch of space in your field of experience, thought, emotion. Everything gets affected. Everything gets a dashing, even a whole jug of clarity. What this also does for other people is a lot of the times it can make them uncomfortable. And the stuff that I was talking about in previous videos about what we have to deal with as a demographic of people that do not match the demographic that populates the disc golf community. The stuff that we have to deal with outside of being on a vow of silence gets elevated. Those things get a lot louder because what speaking does is it softens the interactions. It gives people something to grasp onto. So even if they're dealing with something, if you speak, this is another thing that we have to deal with. People who come at us with certain things, we have to be qualified through our experience, like a judo master, to knock this shit away or knock people back onto a course that is more healthy to our interaction. Because when people get to that space and they start losing control of something similar to their highest form of interaction, some of that lower shit starts to come out. And if you are somebody that stands out in a crowd, which is what happens with us, a lot of the times you will be hit with that shrapnel. In my experience, when people were around me while I was on my vow of silence, what happens is a lot of the time some of the undertones start to rise to the surface. So if somebody felt a certain way around you when you were speaking and then you stop speaking, what happens is that some people will take advantage of that situation. So they'll use it to talk shit, they'll use it to jab at you because you cannot respond. A lot of the times they'll just dismiss you out the gate. I was at GGP one time and we had this guy come up to our group and you could tell he was having a bad day, but that by no means validates his actions of how disrespectful he was. Because he came up to our group with this vibe. And I think he was going to join us. But something was going on with the other guys on my card. And then in some kind of conversation, he found out that I was on a vow of silence. And then he looked at me with this disgust in his face and just stormed off the hole and walked away. Didn't even say anything. As if I was doing something wrong to him and hadn't said a word. It was ridiculous. Well, another guy, people who have to control the interactions, the dialogue, the narrative, how I call it a lot of times. Well, people call it mansplaining. Another thing that I've called it on my YouTube channel, I call it white-splaining. So people understand mansplaining, but there's also this thing called white-splaining. And when people are around somebody who can't speak and they already have a difficulty with mansplaining or white-splaining things, that shit just goes through the roof. So one guy, I was by myself. A lot of the times I was out playing disc golf by myself because it was a form of communication in itself to play. So I'd be out a lot by myself. I was out at this one course playing, and one of the guys came up to me early on and didn't know why I wasn't speaking. So instead of asking me, because I had a form of communication, I could write it down in a little notebook or type it in my phone and then just show it to them. I had things written up for people who genuinely asked, but for people who don't, like this individual, I just let them do their thing because that's part of the experience, to allow the world to present itself to me as it is without me tainting it with my own whatever, with my own voice, with my own whatever. At least for this amount of time, let me just be present for these people and for myself. So this individual, heavy mansplain, white splainer, didn't know how to react with what was going on. So like I said, instead of asking me, he just assumed. So at first he assumed I didn't speak his language. So he started to do his voice in like a Spanish twang, like as if he would change the English words to Spanglish, then I might get it. So that was that was funny. Then he realized that wasn't it because I still wasn't talking and I just had a smirk on my face because it was ridiculous what he was doing. Then he started speaking louder because he thought I was deaf. When he realized I wasn't deaf, then he started speaking as if I was dumb, like slowing his words down and speaking as if he was speaking to somebody that is slow. And meanwhile, this is during the time that he's speaking this whole time. So it's happening very quick. It's happening very obviously. But this is a good glimpse into the way people who are not present experience their reality around us. Because this is the big problem that we have to deal with. Is that since they do not have control over the situation, they do not have control over you, you throw them off. And that reaction to them being thrown off is then redirected towards us, projected back onto us as if we have a problem. So this is the issue that we deal with being called angry, aggressive, violent. All of that comes from the guilt complex that is not existing inside of us, but it exists inside of the individuals who are descendants of those who were violent, who were aggressive, who still benefit from those crimes against our people to this day. Part of that benefit is being redlined into well-off neighborhoods in and around disc golf courses while we are on our inner city reservations. This is the baseline, the center of the whole argument that I'm presenting. It's very simple math. The only reason why it's not seen that way is because there's a concerted effort against our understanding that history even exists. In the regular history books, we don't know about the redlining. We don't know about the Homestead Act. We don't know about the head right system. We don't know about any of these programs that were designed to keep a certain demographic of people up while keeping another demographic of people down. This is all, in many people's eyes, conspiracy theory because it's not taught in the mainstream world. These individuals have a grip on the mainstream world. Everything that they love and enjoy comes from the mainstream world. We do not come from a mainstream world. We come from the real world. So when you bring real conversations, real language, real life to an artificial reality, you are going to ruffle feathers. And it's going to be uncomfortable for a lot of people. And the reaction to that will be projection. Largely, a lot of the time, since people in that mainstream world have been conditioned to be silenced. This is why they speak so much. They speak so much because they're saying nothing. But when it's time to say something, they have nothing to say. Because that's the norm. We come from a world where we speak in reference to words that hold weight of a meaning, of a purpose. So we don't have to say much. Our voices have been completely, this is why I'm bringing this up so much. The very issue is our voices being silenced. And when you bring up your voice being silenced, you then are silenced because that voice is too loud for people who don't have those ears to hear. And if they do, they don't want to hear it. And you're basically speaking another language. So partially, a big part of my vow of silence was I had just joined another community, a brand new community where I thought it was real. I was interacting with people. It was alive. It was new. It was fresh. I was learning stuff. People are cool. And here we go. Once again, I get in there and the same shit happens. I interact on a podcast. This guy's name was a literal disc golf answer guy. And the other guy was sort of like Big Daddy Cool Slick Breeze or whatever the fuck his name was. Call themselves asking about disc golf questions. Okay, I got disc golf questions. You got answers. We got questions. And that's all I pride myself in, is being able to ask good questions. So I have good questions. Silence, not even seen as a relevant question. So basically every angle of my life had been silenced. I wasn't really making a deep communication with my friends, with my family, with this new community in disc golf, with my online community. It wasn't there. So it was time. And it was also a challenge that I wanted to take on. And it helped my game like nothing before, because it helped with the mind game. What that time did to slow me down, to work on my patience, to work on my analysis in the moment, my relationship with time, my relationship with myself, my senses peaked, my interactions with people, my ability to empathize with people and intuit things, all of it went through the roof. And all of that is extremely beneficial for the game of disc golf. Part of the reason why I say that I wanted to share this experience is because one of the big things that relates to the previous videos that I just posted is an experience I had in my first tournament. I think, yeah, that was a sanctioned tournament win, but it was in AM1, and I had a playoff and was in front of everybody else. And this was a local guy. I was not a local guy. I was from out of town, which is not really out of town. It was only like 45 minutes away. This was in Stafford at this time. We played the playoff. We both have terrible shots. It was CTP. And I was actually closer to the pin, but I didn't have a great shot. But nonetheless, closer to the pin. So I win. The guy says my name, and there's maybe 2 or 3 people who clap in that moment. Noticeably, like movie style, noticeably no sound. Like Family Guy type awkward clapping sound shit. And I just looked at everybody like, what the fuck is going on? And not everybody knew that I was on a vow of silence. If they did, they could probably assume that I was maybe deaf or something, but nobody knew that. Nobody knew that. So it was weird to me that was going on. I came back and I told a couple friends of mine, and I was kind of surprised, being new to the community, that this is something that happens. if you don't look like them, if you're an outsider, they treat you a certain way. So it wasn't a one off that you win in their tournament and they just don't give you your props. They don't clap, they don't do what they would normally do in that situation. This has happened to people who are in my close circle, and it's a known thing. If you bring it up, and the fucked up thing is that if you bring it up, if you even talk about it, people want to make you feel bad for talking about it because maybe you're insinuating that they have a problem because they do. This is the whole point. So when you bring up these issues, there is a shield out there. There's a fight. And I don't want to have these next generation of kids coming up into this world having to deal with this shit. It needs to be dealt with right now because it's going to take a while for people to adjust to these conversations. It is a known fact that we are treated differently. I'll end it on this one because I don't want to make this video go on too long. Another example. First hole in this tournament. First fucking hole in the tournament. I go a little bit long. One guy's a little bit off to the right. There's 5 people on the card. 2 other guys are closer to the basket. First hole, mind you, again, I don't know. I've played one time with one of the guys on the card. Everybody else I don't know. Just seen them once before. I don't even know the one guy, really. I just played with him once in a tournament. My disc lands on the sidewalk. The actual, so there's grass and then the edge of the lip of the sidewalk. There is no sidewalk. It's just the lip and then drop off into the street. Mine goes into, it's literally sitting on that little lip on the cement, but not on the street. And the rules clearly say the street is OB. It says nothing about the sidewalk, says nothing about the curb. It says the street. So my interpretation is the street. We want to double check and all that other stuff. We'll make sure. The three guys closest to me who come up, all fucking 3 of them, immediately, without question, oh, that's out of bounds. That's out. It's in the street. And I can't help but think if I was one of their buddies, they would at least get the benefit of the doubt. And that is a damn fact. But being who I am, standing on my own, knowing that, nah, at the very least, this is questionable. We're going to question this shit. So I let everybody say and do whatever they want to say. At this point, I'm not on my vow of silence. This is kind of recent. The other guy comes up. Mind you, there's already 3 people saying it's out. So technically, it's supposed to be out. But it's not. So the other guy comes up. And he has a little question in him. So it kind of makes the other guys look a little fucked up because he's kind of taking my side on there. So there is a little bit of question. Eventually, one of the guys who just said, no, it's out, ends up calling the TD, asks the TD. TD, without hesitation, says, nope, that's in. That's in. We said the street is out. The curb is in. Consider the curb the grass. You're in. 2 seconds. Checked. If I was some new kid playing disc golf and just let these assholes barrel over me, on the first fucking hole, I would have already lost a stroke. This is the kind of shit we're dealing with. And that's not a disc golf thing. That is a demographic thing. And when you have rules involved with people's opinions on situations, that is going to affect the game. And it does. And we see it. And just because you don't see it because it benefits you doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So this is another thing, another part of the game we have to talk about. And that's just another personal experience that I've seen. There's countless other experiences that people have dealt with in this situation. And I'm going to start gathering a few of these stories and sharing them in this series because they need to be heard. So this is what we're dealing with. We are dealing with a different world. And until those worlds get acknowledged, from our perspective, nothing's going to change. We have ways to change it. Even that is being fought against. This is all what's happening in the silence. In the silence of this interaction, of this discussion, it's not just that the information is not getting discussed. It's all the positive shit that would come after the discussion is had. It's not there. And it's not there because people are holding on to what little bit of whatever they think they have by keeping us out of the discussion. And the longer people wait, the heavier that shit's gonna get. And it's not gonna go away. At least for me, once I open up those floodgates, this shit will not stop. So for people who do have something to say, and they might be a little bit scared, you don't have to say anything. But just know, later on down the line, when it is time to say something, we might not want to even listen to you. Your words get lighter as time goes on. And we don't even want to be bothered. Right now, I don't want to be bothered by half of the fucking people that I thought were in support or were part of this community because of inaction, because of the lack of support. And this is not a lack of support just to me. I'm not taking this personal. I don't give a shit. I've been under supported for my whole fucking career before disc golf. I'm talking about the work that needs to be done for the future generations. The work that needs to be done for the people still dealing with this shit right now. That's what matters. And for people who are being silent on these issues right now, they're only in it protecting themselves. They are a mere image of what the community is doing as a whole. So as more of these stories start coming out, you'll see more and more a brighter, more colorful picture of what we're talking about. Not that we need you to see it, only that it's there. We need us to see it. We need to hear each other. Because if this is the only thing we can do in this community, then we'll start there.